I think of the color red in the Holocaust, I immediately think of blood and fear.
So as an archetype, the color red represents passion, so strong emotion. So could represent passion for both sides, like strong hatred, but also a strong desire to survive, or feelings of love or connection with family members during the Holocaust.
I didn't sleep. Through the frosty window panes, we could see flashes of red. Cannon shots broke the silence of night. How close the Russians were. Hope was still alive.
In his novella, Night, Elie Wiesel states that at Auschwitz, the SS officers punished the young Pipel of the Dutch Oberkappel for the sabotage of the central electric plant in Buna. The Pipel is sentenced to hanging, and all the prisoners are forced to watch. The poor little Pipel is so tiny that he dies slowly, lingering between life and death. When Wiesel passes by him, he sees that his tongue is still red, signifying that the little boy is still alive. In this way, Wiesel uses the motif of the color red to symbolize life. Wiesel shows the brutality that the Nazis committed and the way that the SS officers even had a child hung in front of the entire camp. Wiesel uses the motif of the color red to show that as the child dies and his tongue loses the red color of life, the Nazis lose all sense of humanity. The SS officer shows a little bit of struggle as he is forced to sentence the child to hanging, but he does not protest or object to his job. The use of this motif highlights the atrocities that were committed during the Holocaust and how people lost their sense of humanity to protect themselves.
In Christianity, Pontius Pilate allows the crowd to determine Jesus' fate. They wrongfully condemn him, and a crucifixion is set in place. Jesus is stripped naked, forced to wear a crown of thorns, beaten and spit on. He is soon crucified in Golgotha in front of hundreds of people. Jesus' wrists and ankles are nailed to the cross, and he begins to shed blood. Jesus also loses the red in his cheeks, his lips, and his tongue. In this way, red symbolizes the difference between life and death. The crowd that sentences Jesus to a brutal death with no proof and then further disrespects him shows inhumanity. At Auschwitz, the SS officers punished the little Pipel, a Dutch Oberkappel, for sabotaging the central electric plant in Buna and hiding a significant quantity of weapons. The young Pipel is hung, and all of the prisoners are forced to watch. When Wiesel passes by him and sees that he is not yet dead because his tongue is still red. Therefore, Wiesel uses the motif of the color red to represent life and death. Once the Pipel dies, his tongue will no longer be red. The SS officer follows orders without question, further demonstrating the inhumanity of the Nazis. Similarly, Jesus is hung on the cross in front of everyone and is left to die. Both Jesus and the little Pipel are pronounced dead when the color red is no longer visible on their body. The immoral actions of authority figures leads to the use of the color red as a symbol of life versus death.
I looked at my little sister Zipporah, her blonde hair neatly combed, her red coat over her arm, a little girl of 7. On her back, a bag too heavy for her. She was clenching her teeth. She already knew it was useless to complain.
The night before the evacuation of Auschwitz, Wiesel cannot sleep. In the night, he sees flashes of red from the cannons of the Russians. The use of the author's words, "hope was still alive," implies the impact that these flashes of red have on the prisoners. Wiesel uses the motif of the color red to signify that the Russians' cannons shots resembled as warning signals to both the Germans and the Jewish prisoners. To the Germans, the flashes of red were a warning that danger was near. This was a reminder that their evil would have to be dealt with. To the prisoners of the camps, the flashes of red were a jolt of optimism. The Russians' cannons were a sign that help was on the way and they could finally be saved from these horrors. Wiesel uses the motif of the color red here to show that despite the gruesome conditions of the Auschwitz prisoners, this was a reminder that their evil would have to be dealt with. To the prisoners of the camps, the flashes of red were a jolt of optimism. The Russians' cannons were a sign that help was on its way and that finally they would be saved from these horrors. Wiesel uses the motif of the color red here to show that despite the gruesome conditions that the Auschwitz prisoners face, hope still exists. Any sign of help on the war front helps the prisoners to see that they are not alone and that they should not give up when they are so close to survival.
On October 7, 2001, the U.S. military with British support begins a bombing campaign against Taliban forces. Canada, Germany, and France pledge future assistance. The ability to drop multiple bombs on Afghanistan at a time and put the country up in flames demonstrates the power the United States of America holds. The color red appears during the explosions and serves to remind the people of Afghanistan that the U.S. Army is determined. Wiesel sees flashes of red and immediately feels hopeful because he believes that the Russian army is advancing on Hitler's troops and will soon free the Jewish people. The Russians use cannons, the color red, against the Germans, suggesting danger and that they are more powerful. Likewise, the U.S. Army takes control over the attacks using bombs to demonstrate their abilities. Both the United States of America and Russia employ weapons of fire to signify their power within the war.
He remained for more than half an hour, lingering between life and death, writhing before our eyes, and we were forced to look at him at close range. He was still alive when I passed him. His tongue was still red, his eyes not yet extinguished. As Wiesel and his family are awaiting transport to a smaller ghetto, the Jews receive the order to march forward. Wiesel notices a change in his family members. His sister Zipporah, a little girl of 7, has already shown that her childhood is lost. Wiesel includes the motif of the color red through Zipporah's red coat to demonstrate Zipporah and the many other young children whose innocence and lives were taken from them during the Holocaust. Zipporah should be playing outside, living carefreely and spending time with friends. As her family is packing up to leave their home, however, she knows that this life is no more. The Nazis took away Zipporah's innocence, as demonstrated by her carrying a bag too heavy for her without complaining. Zipporah has her pretty red coat over her arm, perfect for going out, but she will never have a chance to use it again. With this symbol, Wiesel shows how a little girl's red coat amidst the destruction of the Nazis shows the loss of innocence of so many children during the Holocaust.
In Schindler's List, Steven Spielberg uses the motif of the color red to demonstrate the innocence among horror. The little girl in the red coat makes her way aimlessly and alone amidst the panic in the street. She walks through the violence of the evacuation as if she cannot see it. The girl's red coat symbolizes the red flag that the Jewish people wave when Allied powers are close by. The Jewish people naively hope that they will help them escape the concentration camps. The girl in the red coat is later exhumed, which represents the death of millions of innocent people. This compares to Wiesel's novella Night, when German policemen wielding clubs order a roll call. Wiesel's younger sister, Zipporah, rushes outside with her red coat over her arm. Zipporah believes that she will have a use for her coat and be able to wear it occasionally once she arrives at the concentration camp, symbolizing her innocence. What Zipporah does not know is that death awaits her. Likewise, in Schindler's List, the girl in the red coat is too young to understand the corruption in the world. Therefore, the motif of the color red represents the death of innocence.